Let's talk about something we've all seen, a really promising AI project that just fizzles out. You have to wonder, why does this happen so often? Well, here's a little secret. It's usually not about the fancy tech. It's about the plan. So today, we're going to break down how to build a blueprint for success that actually works.
You know the story, right? Maybe you've even lived it. An AI initiative kicks off. There's a ton of excitement. But then, months go by, suddenly it's way over budget, it's behind schedule, and nobody even seems to agree on what the goal is anymore. Welcome to the AI project trap. It's way more common than you'd think.
So what is really going on here? Is the algorithm just too complicated? Is the data not clean enough? And yeah, sure, those things can definitely be part of the problem, but they're almost never the real reason it all falls apart. The actual culprit is usually hiding in plain sight, right from the very beginning.
And there it is. The number one reason these projects go completely off the rails isn't the technology, it's the lack of a solid blueprint. See, without a clear plan, a project is basically a sitting duck for the ultimate villain of this story, scope creep. You know what I'm talking about, all those little, can we just add requests that slowly but surely bloat a project until it's completely unrecognizable.
Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom, because there is a hero in this story, and it's called the AI Project Scope Statement. Seriously, think of this document as your project's North Star. It's that single source of truth that's going to guide every single decision and protect you from that dreaded scope creep.
What this really does is make sure that everyone, and I mean everyone, from the data scientists in the weeds to the executives in the boardroom, is on the exact same page. They all share the same understanding of what you're building, why you're building it, and this is just as important, what you are not building. It just creates total clarity from day one.
So, this blueprint, it's really built on 5 key things. First, we're going to draw the map. Then, we have to define the win. After that, we'll set the boundaries, identify the risks, and finally, align the strategy. Let's dive into each one.
All right, first up, you have to draw the map. This is all about getting crystal clear on what you're actually going to produce. It's just not enough to say, hey, we're building a model. No. You've got to get super specific about the tangible things your team is going to hand over at the end of all this.
This is where you turn those big, abstract ideas into concrete stuff. Are you delivering a brand new data pipeline, a couple of trained models, maybe a detailed evaluation report, or is it a user interface prototype and a dashboard to keep an eye on things in production? When you list these out, the project suddenly becomes real and, more importantly, measurable.
Okay, so you've mapped out exactly what you're going to deliver. Now for step 2. You've got to define what a win actually looks like. I mean, think about it. If you don't know what winning is, how on earth are you ever going to know if you've scored?
And let's be clear, success isn't just one thing. Of course, you need great model performance. That's a given. But you also need to track the actual business outcomes, like are we saving money or making more? You've got to look at your operational KPIs, like how fast things are running. And these days, you absolutely have to measure user satisfaction and make sure you're meeting your responsible AI goals. A true win hits all of these.
Right. The last 3 steps, setting boundaries, identifying risks, and aligning your strategy, I like to think of these as the project's guardrails. They would keep your project from veering off the road. They keep you focused, on track, and totally protected from all those pressures that cause scope creep.
Now this might be the most powerful idea in all of project management. The most important part of your scope is deciding what you are not going to do. Seriously, stating what is out of scope is your single greatest defense. It stops misunderstandings before they start, and it gives your team the power to say no to things that, might sound cool, but don't actually help the mission.
Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. In scope, we're developing a predictive model for customer churn. See how specific and focused that is? Now, out of scope, a full-scale enterprise data modernization. Whoa, that is a totally different massive project. By drawing that hard line in the sand, you manage everyone's expectations and keep your team locked in on the real goal.
Next up, you need to call out all the invisible forces that are shaping your project. What are the things you're just assuming are true? And what are the real-world limitations that you're stuck working with? This is all about being realistic and getting ahead of problems. So assumptions are the conditions you absolutely need for success. You might be assuming, for example, that you have enough clean data to work with, or that you can get time with experts from the business team when you need them. The key is to write these down. It makes them visible, so if it turns out one of your assumptions is wrong, you can deal with it early, before it becomes a crisis.
Constraints, on the other hand, well, they basically define the box you have to play inside of. You've got a fixed budget, you only have so many engineers, or maybe there's a hard deadline that you just cannot miss, period. Acknowledging these limits right at the start is so critical for setting realistic expectations for everyone.
And that brings us to the final, and you could argue the most critical piece of this whole puzzle. Because look, an AI project can be technically brilliant, a masterpiece of engineering, but if it doesn't actually help the business, it's useless. This final step makes sure all your hard work actually matters.
Think of this as your final pre-flight check. Does your project directly help the company hit a major goal, like boosting revenue or becoming more efficient? Is it something leadership actually cares about? Have you double-checked that you really have the people and the money to get it done? Once you can answer yes to all of these, then you get that formal sign-off and you're good to go. If you remember one thing, let it be this: a project without a clear scope is just a wish. A well-crafted scope statement transforms that wish into a smart, strategic, and most importantly, an achievable plan. It's the blueprint that lets your team build something truly amazing. So I'll leave you with a question to chew on for your own work. What is the single most important boundary, that one big out-of-scope item that you need to draw for your project right now to make sure it succeeds?